Assalamu alaikum, dear brothers and sisters. There is a very famous verse in the Quran from the chapter Surat Al-An'am that states that when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guides a person, He will increase his breast to understand Islam. But if Allah wills anyone to go astray, he will never find guidance and his breast will feel constricted. So whoever Allah wants to guide, He expands his breast to contain Islam, and whoever He wants to send astray, He makes his breast tight and constricted as though he were climbing into the sky. Thus does Allah place defilement upon those who do not believe. For the ones who are willing to accept guidance from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes Islam easy for him and strengthens his resolve to embrace it. And these are good signs. When we ponder these verses, we imagine how guidance comes down from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to His lost servants. We want to hear such stories where someone claims to have literally experienced the sweetness of guidance from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the most heavenly manner. Today, we will share with you of an Italian investment banker who was previously an agnostic, and then he was guided by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through 3 strange and peculiar dreams. This is a story of Ruggiero Lo Monaco, who was born in Italy and, like most Europeans, did not believe in the existence of God. He had dreams that one day he would have a successful career in banking. One day, while he slept, he had a dream where he was standing in a very strange place, which he was unable to understand during the dream. In that strange place, which he later described as the day of Qiyamah, he was immersed in a beautiful light, which he explains as a kind of nur. That nur was engulfing Ruggiero completely, and while standing in that nur, he was feeling an immense sense of satisfaction and ease. That nur, or light, was none other than the nur of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He woke up suddenly after witnessing that dream and thought about it for a while, but he was unable to understand it properly, being an agnostic, but he really longed to experience the feeling again that he felt in the dream. After a while, he slept again, and then he had another dream where he was hanging upside down in a very terrifying and dark place. This dream was so horrifying, and the first dream was so pleasing. This time, he wanted the dream to end as soon as possible, as it was too disturbing. He couldn't understand what God wanted to show him. After some time, he fell asleep again, entering yet another dream. This time, the dream took a disturbing turn, as he found himself suspended upside down in a sinister and pitch-black location. Unlike the pleasantness of his previous dream, this one filled him with terror, and he desperately wanted it to end. Perplexed, he struggled to comprehend the message that God intended to convey. The following day, he dedicated a significant amount of time to contemplating the contents of both dreams. Nightfall arrived, bringing with it another dream. In this vision, he witnessed himself prostrating in sajda, just as Muslims do during prayer. The experience felt as if an unseen force held him in that posture. Within the dream, he caught sight of a mountain adorned with a blazing tree, accompanied by a voice emanating from behind, commanding, "Do not deny my existence." Startled awake, he discovered himself in a state of prostration and realized that he needed to act. His certainty regarding the existence of God solidified, but he yearned to uncover a means of communication with the divine. Recognizing the significance of incorporating religion into his life, he embarked on a journey of self-education. He enrolled in Christian schools and began studying various religions from scratch. During his military service, while standing guard, he observed ants diligently, transporting sticks upon their heads, entering and exiting a hole in the ground. As dusk settled, They carefully deposited the sticks, sealed the opening, and stationed 2 ants as sentinels. Witnessing this remarkable display, Ruggiero concluded that these intricate behaviors could not have been taught, prompting him to acknowledge the existence of a higher power governing their actions. Upon completing his service, Ruggiero boarded a bus to return home. Gazing through the window, he contemplated the wonders of nature, mountains, leaves, and more. Seated beside him was a woman with whom he struck up a conversation about the existence of God. Surprisingly, she happened to be a Muslim, and later she kindly sent Ruggiero a copy of the Quran, translated into Italian. Upon opening the Quran, Ruggiero felt as though the words resonated with the same entity that had spoken to him in his dream. They carried the words of a sovereign master. Now he knew which religion he desired to embrace and understood the truth he had been seeking. Islam became the path he chose, and he wholeheartedly embraced its teachings. Accompanied by a Muslim neighbor, Ruggiero began attending the mosque, immersing himself in the practices and rituals. During an iftar dinner, he engaged in a conversation about finance. To his surprise, when Ruggiero expressed his intention to work in a bank, his neighbor informed him that interest, known as usury, was considered forbidden, haram, in Islam. This revelation led him to contemplate finding an alternative profession. Now started the test of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for Ruggiero. All his life until now, Ruggiero has studied in this field to get a suitable job in the banking sector. But now he feels that his field is haram altogether, and his dreams have been shattered. Still, Ruggiero never lost hope in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and tried to apply for jobs where halal banking was an option. He applied to several Muslim nations like the UAE and Malaysia. Finally, after many years of patience and struggle, he landed himself a job at a global Islamic finance institution of HSBC. Thus he entered the world of Islamic finance, MashaAllah. Now, Ruggiero is a successful investment banker who specializes in Sharia-compliant products. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed Ruggiero with immense success and guidance. Alhamdulillah. At one point in time, he thought that his career was over. But here we see how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala changed his life just because he didn't lose faith in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and didn't give away dealing with interest. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, "And be patient, for indeed Allah never lets the reward of those who do good go to waste." This is how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guided Brother Ruggiero from being an agnostic to one who placed immense trust in the affairs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Dear brothers and sisters, the story of Brother Ruggiero is a living example for us. This is a story of complete trust and hope. This is a story of a person's quest to find the truth. This is a lesson for us to keep asking for guidance from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We need to keep our full trust in the affairs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and He will definitely have plans for us that we have never imagined. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us among those who never fall into the traps of haram. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide us towards Sirat al-Mustaqim. Ameen.